So President Xi Jinping is going to address the General Assembly very soon. Please sum up some of the highlights of the speeches some world leaders have just delivered.
Monday morning, the world attention, of course, is on the building right behind me, the UN headquarters at the 70th General Assembly. Various state leaders from important countries are going to speak on some of the most important issues. Among them, for example, there's sustainable development and also some of the crises about Syria, for example. In fact, at the very opening of the 70th General Assembly, the UN Secretary General, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, already talked on these issues. He talked about the Earth that we all share and the urgency of working together for sustainable development, the 17 goals which have been adopted by all UN members. And he has also been focusing his attention on the Syrian crisis. He pointed out very clearly that military is not the solution to the crisis. After the UN Secretary General spoke, we also had Ms. Rousseff, the Brazilian president. She also shed some light on these two fronts. She talked about her country's own contribution to the climate change fight, and she has also touched on the Syrian crisis, particularly about the refugees. She said her country is extending its arms to these refugees coming from Syria. Having said that, though, a lot of tension, of course, is on the President Obama from the United States. He, in his speech, summarized almost at the end of his term about some of the diplomatic achievements as he sees it that he has achieved. For example, about Cuba, for example, about the Iran deal. And later he also touched on Syria. He said bombing is necessary, even though he admitted that it is not the solution. And he has also been talking about leadership. He said U.S. cannot solve the world problems alone, on its own. He said the leadership needed now is all about cooperation. It is not a sign of weakness, but rather a sign of strength. Having said these, Mao, the most important figure I think our Chinese are expecting at the UN headquarters to appear very soon is the Chinese President Xi Jinping. He is going to deliver his first ever speech at the General Assembly General Debate, and many are looking at China as a founding member of the current system, the United Nations system, as a contributor, key contributor and founder of the establishment of the current international order, and also as a rising and emerging economy, what the Chinese President Xi Jinping is likely to say. Very likely he's going to touch on also about the climate change, sustainable development, which China has been made very key commitment to, and also his views and China's views about the international order. Back to you.
Well, as you mentioned, Tian Wei, President Xi has attended several summits at the UN, and soon he's going to address the General Assembly. You've just given us a preview, but also share with us the significance of President Xi Jinping's presence at the UN, especially when we go through what he previously addressed during his trip to the United Nations.
Yes, indeed. In fact, I've been talking to some of the participants, even among the state leaders, about their reactions to China's participation this time, Chinese President Xi Jinping's remarks and also actions at the current 70th General Assembly. A lot of them have been indicating to me, even though I am summarizing now in my words, it's almost like a breeze of fresh air, because at the UN, many people have been saying this is a wonderful organization dealing with crises and challenges the human beings are facing for decades. And yet, one of the important things is there have been a lot of rhetoric and lack of actions. However, with China's participation at this time's General Assembly, with some of the past events participated by the Chinese President Xi Jinping, for example, about South-South cooperation, about the Global Summit on Gender Equity, and of course at this time, 70th General Assembly speaking and debate, people are expecting leadership. The leadership is not just coming from the rhetorics and words, but rather leadership are coming from actions. At the South-South cooperation debate, we've already seen China committed not only financially, to the issue about 2 billion fund for the South-South cooperation, but also commitment about reducing the debts of the least developed countries and also investment in the poor countries. About gender equity, China also commit money-wise 10 million US dollars for the UN Women, the key organization dealing with gender equity with the UN organization. But at the same time, the commitment of ideas, the commitment one of the biggest economies is making to its own people and therefore contributing to the overall advancement of the international system. People have been saying China is playing a role model role so far and encouraging other state leaders to also pledge and also move with progress. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Tian Wei, for bringing us that. That's our senior anchor and reporter live with us from the United Nations headquarters.